Welcome to Kempsey's KFC. That's Keir Fur Cutting. A workshop named after the forebears of our guide and sixth-generation hat maker, Steve Keir.
We make hats. We've been making hats in Australia for 148 years. In Kempsey for 50 years, but yeah, good hat makers.
It starts here with this blowing machine, filtering out the grit from rabbit fur. Despite estimates there are 200 million wild rabbits in Australia, this fur is a byproduct of rabbit farming. And it's imported.
I'd say we might have enough rabbits, but there's not enough people getting the fur off them. Yeah, it's a pretty costly exercise to farm or get rabbits in Australia because we've got myxomatosis and calicivirus, which are trying to wipe out the rabbits. So, yeah, we get our fur from our reliable sources over in Europe. We've got about 5 suppliers over there.
For about a decade, the business has relied on imports. He says it can take about 14 rabbits and 8 weeks to produce one Akubra, a process that relies on plenty of people too.
So we've got about 114 staff on the floor.
From the KFC, it's onto a separate workshop where machines like this turn out a cone. Into the wet section, and the product begins to appear less fur, more felt.
The place pretty much runs on steam, and then the whole roof's covered in solar panels, so yeah, there's a lot to run the place. All the machines through here, it's all about making the hat smaller. So they start out probably this size, and then at the end of this section they're only about this big. And all it's doing is just feeding the hats a bit of friction in the hot water and makes the hat smaller.
There's been plenty of friction since Steve's great-great-great-grandfather, Ben Dunkley, established a hat mill near Hobart in 1876. Within 2 years, it was turning out around 750 hats per week. A year later, bankrupt. And then by 1885, the hat maker was back in business, moving to Sydney around the time of Australia's Federation. The name Akubra formally registered in 1912.
After the war, the future looked bright with Akubra supplying the thousands of soldiers with slouch hats. But by 1960, the company was forced to reduce its stocks and cut staff numbers. Two things were responsible: the Holden car, which was manufactured with a lower roof, forcing any hat out the window, and the beehive hairdo.
Hairstyles and car manufacturing moved on. In 1974, the workshop relocated to the mid-north coast. And as this 7:30 report shows, the 1980s were a boom for Akubra.
We're doing our utmost. Our production's gone up almost 200% over the last 3 years.
As US presidents, film stars and everyday Australians wore hats.
You wear a city-type hat. Have you ever thought of wearing one of the more traditional Akubras?
I have got a bigger one at home, yeah. Oh, God, yeah, this is only just a little drinking hat sort of thing. Beer hat.
Back in the workshop, and much of the equipment used by Akubra today is older than the ABC's archives.
We've got machines that are 100 years old. A lot of it came up with the factory when we moved up in the 70s, so over 50 years old. And a lot of it requires lots of manual labour to operate the machines and make the hats the right way. We dye all our own colours here.
After dyeing, it's on to blocking to set the size and shape of the crown.
So it's the head size and the block style. So the 145 will be different to a 310. Yeah.
How many sizes do you do?
Usually about 10, so you're like 53 to a 63 mostly, yeah.
What's the most common?
About 58, 59, yeah.
The brims are shaped and the irons come out. 5 Kiers have run this business, 4 Stephens and 1 Herbert.
These are all orders ready to go.
In late 2023, the Kier family made the decision to sell.
It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard.
This is Akubra's chairman at that time, Steve's dad, Stephen Kier IV, on the decision to sell.
My sisters and I have talked for a long time about where we can get this business to, and we've done a pretty good job to get it where it is now, and our forefathers have done a good job to where it is.
It's Australian made, mate. It has to be made by Australian hands. You know, there's a fallacy that Australia can't do great manufacturing. We absolutely can do great manufacturing. We've got to bring manufacturing back to Australia.
It's now owned by miner Andrew Forrest's private investment group, Tatarang. This Steve Kier, the 5th, has stayed on as production manager and remains passionate about the future of hat making.
So there's about, like per hat, there'll be roughly 60 pairs of hands that go into making one hat. And out of that, there's 162 steps in that process. So, yeah, there's a lot of work going into making a hat.
Do you think people realise what's involved?
No, they don't. It is a very iconic and very skilled job to do all these little parts that make our hat.
Trim shop supervisor Hannah Woods remembers her first visit to the workshop.
It was a very eye-opening experience about how old our machinery and even our boxes are that we use. Like, everything is from a different world. So Kieran is our eyelet machine operator, and he virtually does all of our hats by eyesight. Nothing is measured. In most of our roles here, nothing is measured. It's all by eyesight of finding the middle and the centre. So it's a very skilled job.
How did they teach you that?
On the job. It takes a long time to learn.
The process of learning to make a hat can take up to 4 years in some areas of the trade, so it's quite an extensive but very technical skill. The millinery art is formally recognised, but the actual hat-making process is not, from a formal qualifications perspective.
Akubra CEO Natalie Kalina says the business wants to have the skills used to make the hats officially recognised. And the company says discussion is underway to see how it might become a registered training organisation.
If making an Akubra hat was a formally qualified trade, it would be much easier for us to attract and retain talent over the course of the future.
Tatarang says it's done something similar in South Australia at its bootmaking business, RM Williams, introducing a certificate in leather production with a registered training organisation. But it's too early to know if the company will be successful in a similar quest at Akubra, or the extent to which it might help attract labour.
Yeah, that's really our only constraint here. We've got all the capability to keep making hats, as long as we can keep training our employees to do their jobs correctly and to a good standard to keep our high quality hats coming through, then we're pretty right.
From the trim shop, hats are prepared for distribution. More than 200 stores sell the hats around Australia. In the months following Tatarang's takeover, reports emerged from retailers who claimed they were having their accounts with Akubra closed or supply reduced.
Twiggy, give us a break.
The company told Landline supply is currently not meeting demand and says regretfully it's unable to provide current retailers with enough stock. In a statement, it says it plans to hire dozens more craftspeople, invest in its workshop and continue to assess the retail network supply. Before the tour on Kempsey's South Street wraps up, some final words of advice for anyone wondering how to make the most of their hat.
It's kind of like a good pair of boots, like you got to wear it in. You always get them a little bit big so they come down and mould to your head shape. If you want to change the shape, you can always put it over the boiling kettle or over the stove and, yeah, change how you want it to look.
I think the main thing is when we see people store them incorrectly, they should never be stored flat on their brim. They're to be stored on their crown. because that misshapes the hat.